Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Last week we had concluded our understanding of what was being told with respect to what is happiness. That happiness is a state of mind. We all know that, because when we are happy, it's a state of mind that we enjoy, we revel in that. So for that, we must revel in whatever we do, whatever work we do, we must revel in that. Revel meaning that it must be a joy, that something incomparable even in our own hearts. So like a musician or a painter, the act in the art itself is the fulfillment and not the expected result from the act. So when we look at a musician or a painter, we understood that when they are in the music, when they are in that art of painting, their focus is on the art, not on what is going to come out of it. What comes out of it is just because of that focus that comes in. So like for example, as sportsmen, even though there may be that competition, we may be competing as sportsmen, because it is a sporting arena, obviously there is a need for competing. The play in that sports itself must be with the attitude of reveling in the play, unmindful of what is the result. Only then we can say that excellence is sure to happen in the sports also that we play. And we also understood that we need to unmask ourselves from our identification of our own personality. For example, the moment I start thinking that I am Suresh, father of so-and-so, husband of so-and-so, son of so-and-so, working in so-and-so place, these are all my personality identifications. But once I unmask this personality identification, I am in a position to connect with the higher principle, the Sarvaloka Maheshwara. We ended with that word also last time. Who is our friend? And he is available with us always. He never goes away from us. He is with us 24/7. He is our friend. He doesn't have the curtain which prevents us from connecting with some very high individuals. Like for example, the boss or the chairman of my company, or the chief minister of my state, or the prime minister of my country. For each of them, there is a curtain beyond which I have to reach. But here is the highest principle, who's my friend, who's also their friend. So the highest principle is always my friend and with me. So there is no need for me to search for him. All I need to do is unmask myself from my personality. Okay, this much understood. And we said that, okay, all of us are equally eligible. You are eligible, I am eligible, we are all eligible. How is it possible? At a practical level, there has to be something which is possible, no? We have understood all this. Very nice, it sounds very nice. And it also sometimes sounds a little incredulous. How can I believe such a thing? So, is there a method at the practical level where I can actually do this and know for myself that this is true? So, that is where we come to chapter 6. Like for example, we were all in school. In the school, there was our science class. In chemistry, we were told that, sugar, when it is contacting heat, it sort of melts and it becomes granulated substance. We did not know what it was. But then as children, we used to go to the beach. And in the beach, that guy who used to put that sugar with a color, rose color or something into that pot. And that used to go at a very high speed, hot, and it used to go at a very high speed. In that speed, the sugar used to centrifuge and it used to become candy floss. And we ate that candy floss. So at a practical level, we understood what it is. Similarly, the experiment of dissecting a frog and understanding what are the parts inside. So in the laboratory, science laboratory that we went, we understood the difference, or rather we understood that there is a theory in that science, and at a practical level, how that is manifesting. We understood that. So chapter 6 in this is called Atma Samyamya Yoga. Atma, the self, Samyamya. Sam means at a balance, always at a balance. That is the yoga that we want to know. In simple English, it is called meditation. So we will understand that. So I'm going to play verse 1 to 10, which is like preparatory exercises or preparatory understanding before we enter into meditation. I'll first play verse 1 to 10.
अथ षष्ठोऽध्यायः आत्मसंयमयोगः श्रीभगवानुवाच अनाश्रितः कर्मफलं कार्यं कर्म करोति यः स सन्न्यासी च योगी च न निरग्निर्न चाक्रियः यं सन्न्यासमिति प्राहुर्योगं तं विद्धि पाण्डव न ह्यसन्न्यस्तसङ्कल्पो योगी भवति कश्चन आरुरुक्षोर्मुनेर्योगं कर्म कारणमुच्यते योगारूढस्य तस्यैव शमः कारणमुच्यते यदा हिनेन्द्रियार्थेषु न कर्मस्वनुषज्जते सर्वसङ्कल्पसन्न्यासी योगारूढस्तदोच्यते उद्धरेदात्मनात्मानं नात्मानमवसादयेत् आत्मैव ह्यात्मनो बन्धुरात्मैव रिपुरात्मनः बन्धुरात्मात्मनस्तस्य येनात्मैवात्मना जितः अनात्मनस्तु शत्रुत्वे वर्तेतात्मैव शत्रुवत् जितात्मनः प्रशान्तस्य परमात्मा समाहितः शीतोष्णसुखदुःखेषु तथा मानापमानयोः ज्ञानविज्ञानतृप्तात्मा कूटस्थो विजितेन्द्रियः युक्त इत्युच्यते योगी समलोष्टाश्मकाञ्चनः सुहृन्मित्रार्युदासीनमध्यस्थद्वेष्यबन्धुषु साधुष्वपि च पापेषु समबुद्धिर्विशिष्यते योगी युञ्जीत सततम् आत्मानं रहसि स्थितः एकाकीयत चित्तात्मा निराशीरपरिग्रहः.
Now, we come across many meditation workshops nowadays. There is a meditation workshop, or there are some schools which say we will teach you meditation. Online also there are many meditation workshops. So they say that we will teach you how to meditate. I'm not decrying what they are doing. Many people are doing a lot of good work. Meditation is not like Hatha Yoga. Like Hatha Yoga meaning the yoga of various exercises that we have said, the power yoga, this yoga, that yoga. It is unlike that. Meditation actually is not an act itself. Meditation is not a verb. It is a noun name for a state of mind, that I am in a state of meditation. So the action that we do for meditation is called contemplation. For example, I am sitting here. I am contemplating whether I should have coffee or not. Contemplation, isn't it? Nice contemplation. But I already had coffee. That's a different thing. So from the path of contemplation that we do, we reach a state of meditation. Sleep. We all like to sleep. We all sleep every day. So sleep is a state of our own consciousness. I am waking, I am talking to you. There are sometimes just before getting to sleep I have a dream, or just before waking up from sleep I have a dream. That is called a dream state. And then there is a state which is sleep, where we don't know anything. So sleep is a state of our own consciousness. The effort that we put to go to sleep, in trying to sleep, the trying to sleep is a verb. The effort that we put is the verb. For example, in trying to sleep, you say that there is a noise coming from there. You close your ears because you don't want the noise to disturb you. Your physiotherapist has told you that you need to keep a pillow between your knees so that your knees don't grind each other. So that is an effort that you do. You put in a blanket to ensure that you don't feel cold. So these are all the exercises that you do in the effort to sleep. But when you sleep, you are slept. And when somebody is coming and asking, where is Suresh? He is sleeping. But Suresh is not sleeping. Suresh is in a state called sleep. The effort that was required for him to sleep, that he has already done. So he is in a, so sleeping by itself is not an action, it's just a state. But there are many people who don't get sleep. That's a different thing. So I'm reminded of this song. मुझे नींद ना आए हो, मुझे नींद ना आए, मुझे चैन ना आए, कोई जाए जरा ढूंढ के लाए, न जाने कहां दिल खो गया, न जाने कहां दिल खो गया. So there are many people who take that effort to sleep but they don't get sleep because they are anxious to sleep. That anxiety itself does not make them sleep. So you need to relax and go to sleep in a state where there are no agitations in your mind. So the person who performs his actions without anxiety for the fruits of that action, because the result is always after the action. During the action, there shouldn't be any anxiety for that which is going to come later. So only such a person is capable of understanding the method in a principle of surrender to the very same higher knowledge for which he is working now through meditation in the present. So sleep example is a good way of understanding this. The effort which is required before sleeping is all that we can put in because we are reaching that higher state which is called sleep state. Similarly, the effort that we put in is the effort of contemplation to reach a state called the state of meditation. Like for example, mounting a horse. We want to mount a horse. We put our left foot into the stirrup and put the right leg across the horse and trying to climb. Now at that point in time, if the horse moves, we will fall down. We know that. So that is the time when we have to be careful to ensure that we mount the horse properly. Once we have climbed the horse and we are on the saddle, assuming that we know horse riding, we are the master of the horse and the horse will go wherever we ask the horse to go. If we don't know riding, then we are done because horse will take us wherever it wants. So like our wandering mind, until we climb the horse of our mind, the mind will take us wherever the mind wants. We will not be able to master our own mind. So then the question that comes is meditation an easy way out of a life situation? In my life situation, I am saying I always want to find what? Happiness. So if meditation is a means of me being happy, I would rather meditate and become joyful rather than work and be happy. Why should I work then? I might as well sit for meditation. Please understand this. You cannot stop work unless your desire for whatever you want out of that work has ended. So that can be climbed only by working, not by avoiding work. So even the imagination that we have, that we will get a joy through meditation, is a desire. So that desire is in the mind through our sense objects. So even that desire can be done only by the effort. So quietness in the mind by and through our actions is essential before we even take the effort for meditation. So in whatever work we are doing, we must ensure that we are focused and doing whatever it is required to be done, so that when we sit for meditation, at that point in time, there is no agitation that I have not done, or I don't want to do, or the result has not come, or I have failed. None of this is there. So there cannot be, there are meditation trainers, as I started off saying, like how there are horse riding trainers. Please understand that nobody can do or help you do the meditation. The teacher or the trainer only shows you the way. Each of us has to climb that horse by ourselves. I will show you a video so you will understand this, what I am trying to say. Now this is a video. See this girl trying to climb the horse. Of course, it's a silly way of climbing, and the horse has thrown her off. So now here you understand that each of us has to climb that horse, which is our mind, through our own intellect. Each of us has to climb that mind, which is our horse, through our intellect, and having done that, we have to be there to ride the mind and ensure that what is it that our intellect is directing us, that is the way the mind should work. So they work as a team. So we have to be the boss of our own vehicle. I am reminded of a Mahmood song. मैं हूँ घोड़ा, ये है गाड़ी, मेरी रिक्शा सबसे निराली, ना गोरी है ना ये काली, ओ घर तक पहुंचा देने वाली. So the horse that we are climbing, our mind, should be in a position to take us where we want to go through our own intellect. And for that, we need to learn to climb our mind through our intellect. Now, once I have conquered myself like this, once I have conquered myself by myself, so through my own effort of my intellect, I work, and through that I have been able to conquer my mind, which is of a wandering nature like that horse. I become my own friend. I have conquered the mind by the discrimination of my intellect, and then they both work together as a team. For such a person, the mind is the greatest friend, because then the mind is going to do whatever is that you have worked out as an intellectual discrimination, that this is what I want to be done. Now, the mind and intellect also can get divorced from each other, because there is a desire. For example, I am sitting here and I am saying that, Arey yaar, I want that coffee. I want that coffee. Now that becomes an agitation in my mind. Now, unless I go and get that coffee, that is, for that I have to take an action. My intellect has to say, go to Starbucks or maybe go to the kitchen, make coffee. Until I do that, there is a conflict between the mind and intellect. The intellect says, you are having some work to do, sit and do that work. No, the mind says, no, I want coffee. Now, this entire process, the work which has to be done, I don't do. And my mind is running after the coffee. So, originally, my mind identified the desire for coffee. Could be anything. So, my mind identified the desire for coffee. The intellect which was telling that you sit down and finish your work, you're supposed to deliver this to your company. I did not do that. I got up, now started running after that coffee, Starbucks, kitchen, whatever is required to be done. So, this makes me run or work helter-skelter from my own progress, because now my intellect is now subservient to my mind and I become my own enemy. I cannot blame anyone. Work is not done. My boss had told me that I am supposed to send it at, let's say, 5:30. I didn't send it. 5:30 he's called me. What happened? You did not send it. No, I've gone to Starbucks for having coffee. So then I cannot blame Starbucks. I cannot blame the coffee. I cannot point a finger at somebody else, because the moment I point a finger at somebody else, there are three which are pointing at me. And who are those three? The three are my own apparatuses, my body, my mind, my intellect, which did not work for my own progress. So what is the point in my pointing a finger at somebody else, saying that because of him, because of that, or something like that, I did not do my work? So if you take a case on the contrary, that they both are working as a team, the mind and intellect, because they work as a team, they are peaceful. There is no dancing around saying that this is needed, that is needed. There is no dancing around. The work was to be done at 5:30. I finished that work. After that, I went for a coffee. They work as a team, because of which there are no agitations. We remain extremely balanced. So in all experiences that we have, when they are working as a team, in all the experiences that we have, whether it be heat and cold is at the bodily level. I touch something, it is hot. I touch something, it is cold. Joys and sorrows at the mind level. I am very joyful at some experience, or I am very sorrowful because of some experience at the mind level. Respect and disrespect at the intellectual level. That fellow spoke to me very respectfully. That fellow spoke to me very rudely, disrespectfully. In all these situations, when they are working as a team, we remain in equipoise at every given situation. We don't run helter-skelter, because we know that this situation today, just now it is I touched a very hot vessel. What will I do? I'll immediately take it either under the tap and put it under the tap, or I will put honey in it so that it doesn't become a blister. If there is something very cold, I immediately pick up a warm towel or something and wipe my hand. So every given situation that comes across, that we are experiencing, we have the way of dealing with it without any kind of agitation in the mind. Not that, oh, my hand is hot, oh, my hand is cold. Not that way. We are simply saying, okay, this experience happened. What is the next thing to be done? We are balanced. Let us understand our own knowledge streams. Most of our knowledge, let's say almost 98% of our knowledge, comes from other sources. For example, I am sharing what I have. You are listening. Some of you may have read Bhagavad Gita. Some of you may have read certain commentaries also. Some of you must have, heard whatever it is. So 98% of the knowledge that we get is from other sources, others' experiences. Our memory of what we have learnt from other sources or that has been shared to us is our second-hand knowledge, because it has come to us through somebody else, maybe a CD, maybe a YouTube video, maybe a book, maybe somebody talking something we heard and we understood, maybe something we read in the hoarding somewhere, whatever it is all second-hand knowledge. 2% of our knowledge, 2% is just a benchmark number of whatever we have, our knowledge is what we have reflected upon from what we have gained from others. So from whatever I have heard, whatever I have seen, whatever I have experienced, from there what I have reflected upon, that becomes my first-hand knowledge, because it has come from my own mind and intellect. So with this composite 100% knowledge of what we have learnt and what we have reflected upon, when we have gained the balance in our mind from there, we are contented and steadfast in that state of knowledge. So in what we are now discussing, from what I am talking to you, what you have thought about, from your own reflection, maybe improvisation on whatever I have said, you have gained a state of balance, an equipoise. That is the higher state in which we are. Correct? Now this brings a question. What about people like, prodigies? Like for example, there was this Mozart. Mozart was a prodigy that at the age of 5 he composed his first symphony at the age of 5. And he had a short life. I guess he had a life of 35 or 36 or something like that. Then we have our own Adi Shankaracharya. He had a life of 32. His first 16 years, although he learnt a lot from whatever sources he had, he got permission from his mother and then he went away. In the next 16 years, he did whatever he did, which is the repository of so much of knowledge that we have in our ancient knowledge wisdom. So where did they get it from? I mean, you can't say that they all got it from some form of teaching or the other. What they have learnt and what they have reflected upon, and they have reached that state of balance. That is because there is a canvas of knowledge already existing from what we have learned, what others have learned. They are in a position, they are Yuga Purushas. They have borrowed from that canvas of knowledge and they have become prodigies. That is what I can think of. So, to a person like that, every material, whether it is a ball of clay or a piece of gold, it is the same to such a person. What do you mean by a ball of clay or a piece of gold? That's something very valuable. Like for example, you give him the latest version of iPhone, or you give him a old Nokia 9610, whatever, old phone. It is a phone. He looks upon that as a phone. Okay, fine. I need to be available for communication. With the old phone, I can't do WhatsApping. I cannot do any other advanced, smartphone activities. But okay, I'm available on phone for speaking. And if you give me the latest of the iPhone, okay, that's also fine. Okay, I can use WhatsApp. I don't need WhatsApp. People can still call me. So for him, it does not making a difference what is the material that is coming to him, because he is not going to run after monetizing the gold. He is not saying that, Arey, I got a piece of gold, I want to now go and make cash out of it. Nor is he saying that I don't like that ball of clay. Nor is he saying that 9610 is a useless phone. I am not saying that. Because for him, both are like a child's toy. Like for example, your child's toy, which you are seeing, is absolutely valueless to you. It is your child's toy. For the child, it is of a great value. For you, it is valueless. Yeah, you can use that toy to show the child maybe a little bit of puppetry or something like that. That you can use. Otherwise, it is valueless. Similar is the case for such a person. Now, the equality of vision that such a person has with respect to these things itself also translates into their vision of people and other beings around them. In our case, what is the problem? We have our set of priorities and prejudices about each person we are associated with. Let us take, for example, our friends. We say, that friend, Ari, he's a useless bugger. He's an annoying guy. I don't want to be with him. This person, he is a scholar. I will want to spend my time with him. So we have a valuation of each person. So we will say, I don't want to meet the first, I want to meet the second. In our family also we say, I am not close to my brother, I am close to my sister. I don't want to meet my brother, I will meet my sister. So this kind of value analysis we keep doing in our own relationships. But the wise ones, their response to each and every person, whether it is their wife, whether it is their children, whether it is their relatives, whether it is their friends, whether it is their enemies, it's the same. Because for that person, they are all just people with different personalities. If my brother is a useless bugger, he's always talking nonsense, that is his personality. If my sister is always talking nice things, or if she's a progressive person, that is her personality. So you understand that in each person, the personality is different, but the life principle in all those names, in all those forms, is the same. So there is no distinction between A or B. So there is no angst, there is no anger. There is just, there is no ill feeling that you carry about anybody. They are like that. There is a song of Rafi Saab which sort of speaks about how you can be angry with somebody and sort of curse that person. मेरे दुश्मन तू मेरी दोस्ती को तरसे, मेरे दुश्मन तू मेरी दोस्ती को तरसे, मुझे गम देने वाले तू खुशी को तरसे. For him, none of this. He will have nothing, no ill feeling towards anybody. So be it. That is your personality. So once we are thus ready in our mind and intellect, we keep our mind in solitude. Solitude meaning there is also this tendency for, if I'm going in for a meditation session, either a workshop or whatever, I call up and tell my friend, Arey, you know what? I'm going for meditation. Tomorrow from 5 to 6, I have a meditation class. This is what we do. So the idea is that you are not advertising your intent, nor are you going to invite any disturbance to your mind. I told him that I'm going from 5 to 6, and then during the session, I'm thinking at 6 o'clock, I'll call him and tell him, how was the session? Then what are you doing? You are bringing agitation into your mind that I want to tell him at 6 o'clock how the session was. Because your entire purpose of having to remain in that quietude itself is lost. So you keep the mind in solitude, keep the body controlled. The body controlled is basically to ensure that the body is not running after one thing or the other thing. At all times it is all in agitation. And ensure that the mind is not leaking through any of those 9 gates. If you remember the Navadwara, the 9-gated fortress of the body, that ensure that the mind is not leaking through any of those 9 gates, nor carry any hope or greed to succeed or to reach any state. So because you don't carry that anxiety that I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to become peaceful, then again the same thing happens, because the mind is searching for that, anxiously searching for that result. That is not the idea. And importantly, be alone. Alone meaning what? There are a lot of people who go for these joint meditation sessions. Joint meditation, husband and wife are going together. Fine. You go to the class together. But ultimately when you sit on meditation, it is only you and you alone. There is nobody else. So even in a group meditation session that you are, there may be 400 people. Ultimately in that entire process, you are all alone. That is something which we need to be understood very clearly. So having prepared ourselves, we have to now go in for the practical side, how to do it. Now I'm going to play verse 11 to 23, which is talking about how we have to do it.
शुचौ देशे प्रतिष्ठाप्य स्थिरमासनमात्मनः नात्युच्छ्रितं नातिनीचं चैलाजिनकुशोत्तरम् तत्रैकाग्रं मनः कृत्वा यतचित्तेन्द्रियक्रियः उपविश्यासने युञ्ज्याद्योगमात्मविशुद्धये समं कायशिरोग्रीवं धारयन्नचलं स्थिरः सम्प्रेक्ष्य नासिकाग्रं स्वं दिशश्चानवलोकयन् प्रशान्तात्मा विगतभिर्ब्रह्मचारिव्रते स्थितः मनः संयम्य मच्चित्तो युक्त आसीत मत्परः युञ्जन्नेवं सदात्मानं योगी नियतमानसः शान्तिं निर्वाणपरमां मत्संस्थामधिगच्छति नात्यश्नतस्तु योगोऽस्ति न चैकान्तमनश्नतः न चाति स्वप्नशीलस्य जाग्रतो नैव चार्जुन युक्ताहारविहारस्य युक्तचेष्टस्य कर्मसु युक्तस्वप्नावबोधस्य योगो भवति दुःखः यदा विनियतं चित्तमात्मन्येवावतिष्ठते निःस्पृहः सर्वकामेभ्यो युक्त इत्युच्यते तदा यथा दीपो निवातस्थो नेङ्गते सोपमा स्मृता योगिनो यतचित्तस्य युञ्जतो योगमात्मनः यत्रो परमते चित्तं निरुद्धं योगसेवया यत्र चैवात्मनात्मानं नितुष्यति सुखमात्यन्तिकं यत्तद्बुद्धिग्राह्यमतीन्द्रियम् वेत्ति यत्र न चैवायं स्थितश्चलति तत्त्वतः यं लब्ध्वा चापरं लाभं मन्यते नाधिकं ततः यस्मिन् स्थितो न दुःखेन गुरुणापि विचाल्यते तं विद्या दुःखसंयोगवियोगं योगसंज्ञितम् स निश्चयेन योक्तव्यो योगो निर्विण्णचेतसा.
So what do we do to start with? To start with, we need to sit in a clean place. A clean place where there is no disturbance from outside. Now disturbance from outside, invariably the first disturbance that we have is noise. Dog barking, building security shouting, or some construction work going on outside the window. So these are the things which brings disturbance to the ears. It could be smell, for example, the place where we are, it could be near some gutter or something, and then that smell. So your mind is now leaking towards that smell. The mind is leaking towards that noise. And we have to be with our eyes closed. Open eyes, what happens? You are seeing something or the other. That seeing will give you some signals. So you are closing your eyes. You are preventing any disturbance coming through the nose or the ears. Your hands are in, what do you call that? Control, because it is part of your body. And obviously you are not going to be using your tongue for tasting anything because you are sitting in meditation. So your sense organs are under your control. Now the bottom, your seat, must be held in a firm place throughout the session, so that the body does not shift or waver. If your bottom is firm, only then you will be able to sit firmly. And the place where we are sitting should not be too high, should not be too low. You cannot be sitting on top of, let's say, a table or something, because the moment you are sitting on top of a table, there is always the fear that the gravity will pull you down. Or you should not be sitting down below in a dungeon or a basement or something which is a dark and smelly place, because the mind will become sullen or morose. So you need to sit in a place which is not too high or not too low. In the tropical climates like how we are in India, we can cross-legged we can sit. For example, we can sit cross-legged and sitting on the floor. But some of us are, having a problem with the knees or legs or something like that. We can't even sit on the floor. Let us take that, you are doing this in London in the peak of winter in the month of January. You are wearing so many woolens, you can't even cross-legged and you cannot sit down. So you can sit in a chair. Perfectly fine. There is nobody telling you that you have to sit on the floor only. Any firm seat which substitutes for a floor is also fine. And then of course in the Gita there is one particular verse which talks about you must sit on a firm mat and not on a rough stone, not on a cushion, not on a waterbed seat. What happens? You must sit on a firm mat. You don't sit on a rough stone. What will happen if you sit on a rough stone? It will start piercing your bum. Not on a cushion, because the cushion will become very wobbly. It is not stable. Not on a waterbed, because a waterbed kind of a seat is they are always shaking. Your body will not be stable. So in the Gita they talk about what is called a kusha grass, talking about an animal skin, talking about a white cloth. Now we don't take the literal meaning of these things because these were olden times. Basically the straw in that was meant to avoid dampness which is coming from the floor. The skin on that was meant to avoid the human perspiration which will go down, and the cloth was to prevent the itchiness which comes from the skin or the grass. This is what it was. But we are in modern times. I will share a slide with you to understand what is it that we must not do. And this is very modern because you get a lot of these kind of pictures on on internet. Now here is one girl. She's sitting on a parapet. If you see, she's sitting on the beach. She's sitting on a parapet which can go to the left or right. Okay, she's sitting in a balanced way. The pose is all very nice. It's good to see on a picture. But just imagine that any point in time she can either tilt left or tilt right and she can fall down. That is not the way you must sit. Now this guy is purported, as you know, when you look at it, you think that he is sitting on a piece of rock. Now that rock will pierce your bum and you will not be comfortable. That is not the way you sit. And this person is sitting on grass. Now the grass itself is rough that it will go and pierce your bottom. So this is not the way you must sit. You must sit comfortably in whatever manner you are okay with at the place where you are sitting for meditation. Initially when you sit for meditation, it should be for the sake of purification of the mind. So by controlling the mind, by controlling the senses and single-pointedly focusing on that higher principle that we know is the life principle, that is the first step in meditation, so that you come to that state. Let's understand why we are talking about this. An objective mind is easier. Objective mind meaning that I told you the example. Objective, I want a cup of coffee. I can get up, go to the kitchen, make coffee and drink it. Objective. But I want to meditate and become calm. It's subjective. So the subjective process is always a little difficult because it is something which we are not used to doing. So when we are not used to doing something, it requires that much of effort for us to balance ourselves. Let us understand, go back to what we discussed about our own mind earlier. What is the mind? Mind is a flow of thoughts. Now a flow of thoughts like a river. It just keeps on flowing. One thought, another thought, another thought, another thought. And we have this habit of linking one thought to the other. And we keep on linking. We start with something and we end up something else and we wonder, where did we start from? What was the first thought? We don't know, because the mind is a flow of thoughts. So how to stop this flow of thoughts? By being single pointed. Now what if you say that, okay, single pointed, I think of only one thought. Fine. One thought, I saw a girl walking. She was so beautiful. She was so wonderful to look at. Now my thought is, that girl, that girl, that girl, that girl is gone. But my mind is only on that girl. Or maybe I want missile. My mind is now on missile. My mind is focused on that. Or maybe a peg of whiskey. Today it's 6 o'clock, nearing 6 o'clock, I want a peg of whiskey. Or some picture, maybe even God's picture for that matter. Or something, maybe my father, maybe my teacher. But when I bring in these kind of objects into my thought, what happens is each of them have got their own issues. That girl, I don't know who that girl is. That missile, it may or may not be good. The drink, I will have that, I will get a little high, and then after that it will go away. Each of them has got their own issues. I may have some anger issues with my father. I may not agree with my teacher. So many issues are there. So these issues turn up those thoughts into negativity. So the single pointedness must be on a higher principle which will not change, which is changeless, and that is that higher principle. The next thing is that your body, the head, the neck must be held erect, which means it must be in a 90 degrees angle in a straight line. Invariably what happens, like for example, now I am reclining as I am talking to you. But when I am sitting for meditation, if I sit like this with my back bent backwards, what I am doing is I am stopping the flow of energy which is flowing, that is the oxygen which is flowing through me. If I sit straight, what happens is whatever I am breathing in and whatever I am breathing out is going in a rhythm. If I break the rhythm, it immediately affects my thinking process. It immediately affects my brain, it immediately affects my mind. So then it becomes dull. So they must be in a straight line. And the trunk must be held firm without movement, like a tree trunk. It should not be with any kind of movement. And most importantly, we should not be looking in all directions. Like even if your eyes are closed, what will happen is there is some noise coming here, I'll turn right. And if there is some smell coming this side, I'll turn left. You should not, that is not the idea. The idea is that you understand what is single pointedness. So the wandering nature of the mind has to be arrested. That is your objective first. Then you must be fearless. Fearless in the sense that there is no worry that I will not achieve this. There must be no fear in my mind that this is not something which I will not achieve. You should be fearless and you should be serene-minded, absolutely calm. That it will, what I am doing is ultimately going to yield positive results only. And established in brahmacharya is the word that is used. Established in brahmacharya meanings my attention is towards that higher principle. My attention is entirely taken towards that higher principle, thinking only of that and having that as your supreme goal. It's all very fine theoretically. How do you understand? So I got this practical knowledge because I went for this meditation, what can I say, camp of Vipassana in Igarpuri. So in that, we were given for 10 days, 10 hours every day. We were continuously made to climb over this state of mind gradually. We were sort of trained to gradually climb over that. So gradually, in it's group session of about 300-400 people. So gradually you climb your own mind with the use of your own intellect and understand the law of impermanence, that everything around you is impermanent except that one principle, which is the life energy flowing through you at constantly, and that is flowing through you. And even as that life energy is flowing through you, the experiences that come across to you at the bodily level, they are also constantly changing. Only the energy flow is constant. Everything else is changing. So this you are in a position to understand. This is actually a teaching by Buddha. Vipassana is a method which was taught by Buddha. He sat under a tree for 36 years to attain nirvana. When Buddha was there at that time, the Gita knowledge was already available at that time. But he went through the entire experience of cancelling out whatever was the wrong experiences that were coming, the negativities that were coming, and the final purified knowledge that he got for liberating the mind and intellect. That knowledge he shared it with the world. This is what happened. So we need to learn to unhook our mind, because basically this is all about habit pattern of the mind. The mind keeps on fixing itself to certain habit patterns and it will not want to change. So we have to unhook our mind from the past habit patterns, and as much as we quieten the mind, that much we realize the higher. It's not that, we have to quieten the mind completely and then only we will realize the higher. The more and more we exercise, the more and more we practice, the more and more we realize that the vision of the higher is coming a little more clearly to us. So then that quietening leads us to the higher knowledge. So basically we have to get rid of what was there in the past. I'm reminded of a song from Admi. I'd taken the same song in one of my talks, but then here are some words which are very relevant. बीते दिनों की याद थी जिनमें मैं वो तराने भूल चुका, आज नई मंजिल है मेरी, कल के ठिकाने भूल चुका, न वो दिल न सनम न वो दीन दरम, अब दूर हूँ सारे गुनाहों से, आज पुरानी राहों से कोई मुझे आवाज न दे. So what we do is we get over our own past habit patterns to climb our mind through our intellect. And what is the end objective? You reach nirvana. I use the word nirvana for Buddha. Nirvana, what was the explanation I give you? Vana is flames. Nirvana is when you remain without any flames. Flames represent agitations of the mind. The agitations of the mind are stopped and we get liberated from our own past habit patterns. So I'll briefly take 2 minutes to explain something. So what I request all of you is to sit erect with your back straight. Sit erect with your back straight. No matter where you're sitting, sitting down, sitting on a chair, wherever you are, just sit erect with your back straight. Calm your mind and close your eyes. And close your eyes and just see how your breathing is going on and how your body is still. So as you observe your breathing and as you find that your body is still, gradually you will realize that your mind is becoming calmer and calmer because there are no external influences except my voice which is coming through to you. So this steadiness is broken only by now my voice which is now come to you. So we have to do this experiment with ourselves. So we have to do this experiment for our own sake. So this care to be taken in this experiment is we should not be eating too much. For example, you had a huge Rajbhog with 56 items in your lunch today. Your state of the body now will be that you're waiting to doze off. That will be the state of your body. Nor should you be not eating at all. For example, today you didn't have breakfast, you didn't have lunch. Now your mind is actually seeking food. So you can't reach out. So you need to have had food. You should not be hungry, you should not be overeaten. Similarly, assuming that today morning you went to bed at 12 o'clock at night and then you woke up today at 8 o'clock, you had breakfast and then again you went back to sleep. Now in the afternoon after lunch you slept. You slept so much that you are so drowsy. Or that you not slept for the last 2 nights because of some work and then you are sitting for this kind of contemplation. None of these. You should be in moderation in all actions. You should engage in every act. Eat in moderation. Enjoy your work. Do whatever work is required. Do whatever that you are doing. Do your sports, your recreation, whatever you are doing, perfectly fine. Sleep in moderation. That's 7 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, whatever it is. Exhaust yourself in the work, but not so much that you are so tired. So ensure that, I've been told by a very senior person that every afternoon, after your lunch, after about 15 minutes, do a power nap for 10 minutes. Even if you are sitting on your chair in the office, 10 minutes. It refreshes yourself for the rest of the day. Now, this is the way you need to ensure that your body, mind and intellect are not tired. So this applies to our actions from each and every sense organ. So you can enjoy vision. You're seeing something, a beautiful sight, a beautiful girl, in moderation. But don't focus only on that at all times. Our problem is that we see that or we hear that, we touch that, we want the same thing again and again. I want the same missile. I want the same chappan bhog. So fine, but then moderation is what is required. So in each experience, there is moderation that is required. Only then we will be in a position to understand this and live this experience. Now, the question that will come is, okay, I do all these things. When can I say that my contemplation has actually become steady and that I am progressing? Because it is an exercise by me alone, with me. There is nobody else. So how is it that I know that I have progressed? There are no benchmarks for me to know because there is nobody else. I am doing it with myself. So when that controlled mind, well-controlled mind rests on the higher self, that is when you know that you have progressed. Now, I am now just going to simply extend that Vipassana example a little bit, and what exercise I gave you a little earlier. I request you to just close your eyes once again. And now, after closing your eyes, I will explain. Please close your eyes, sit erect and close your eyes. And now focus on the breath which is coming out of your nostrils into your upper lip. The breath will be hitting the upper lip. Just pay attention, transfer all your attention there to just see what is happening. Don't try to breathe, let the breathing come by itself as it is. Don't try to do anything, just observe how your breath is coming to your tip of your nostrils on the upper lip. You will observe that when the mind is calm, the breath which is coming and touching your upper lip is very rhythmic and soft. And when your mind is not calm, it will come in fits and bursts. It will not be rhythmic. It will just come suddenly. Sometimes it will be slow, sometimes it will be fast. It will not be rhythmic. So you will observe from that itself that my mind is now controlled. I'm just giving you the beginning step of Vipassana. This is the beginning step of Vipassana. So those who are interested can Google Vipassana. You will find a website called dhamma.org. You will get all the details there. But then the point is, you understand how your mind responds. So when I'm working on a project, at a real life example, when I'm working on a project, I'm totally lost in that work. When I'm singing, I'm focused on that song. When I'm lovingly taking care of my child's feeding, my focus is only on the child's food. So whenever we are focused like that on the subject in meditation, all these are objects. What I told you earlier, they're all objects. When we are focused like that on the subject, which is ourselves, in meditation, I am well controlled. How? The well control is again that example of that lamp. I will just share that with you first. This is a lamp, bunch of lamps, but then if you look at it, the flames are flickering all around. It is not steady because of the breeze. It has come inside the lamp and it is going all around. Our mind in a state of agitation is like this, going upwards, going leftwards, going rightwards, sometimes totally off. It is in that kind of a condition. Whereas when the mind is steady, it is like a lamp which is in a place where there is no breeze and it is steady, unflickering. That is a self-controlled mind. That is what we need to understand as a simile to know what how our mind should be. So this is exactly what I said when we talk about nirvana. You remember? What is vana? The flames which are in agitation, that is our mind. Nirvana happens when that flame becomes single pointed and going upwards in an unflickering way. So it is going up towards that higher principle and the consciousness within us is illumined. So we know that our intellect can grasp everything. We are intelligent people. Our intellect can grasp everything, understand everything, explain everything. Then we wonder, how is it that the intellect cannot grasp our higher reality? The song which comes is our Kishordas song. ये क्या हुआ, कैसे हुआ, कब हुआ, क्यों हुआ? So that way. So why is it that is happening? Because the intellect gets intelligence only when that life principle empowers it. Let us take a flashlight. In a dark room, you are using a flashlight. Now, if you want to see what is empowering that flashlight, you will have to remove the battery. Now, if you remove the battery, there is no light to fall on that battery. You cannot know what the battery is. So, when you remove the power from the flashlight cannot show you. The power is that invisible force which is inside, which is giving the light. Similarly, the intellect gets its intelligence because the life principle is the one which is energizing it. So the ultimate or extreme happiness that we can reach in meditation is something the intellect can grasp, but the sense organs cannot identify. The intellect can grasp it, sense organs cannot identify. And we remain in that state without returning to the lower state of identification with our anxieties, with our regrets, with our sorrows, with our little joys. That is reality. So that, if you remember our old slide of that body, mind and intellect, it is exactly this. This is the higher principle, and our body, mind, intellect can only identify the ones which are lower, the objects, emotions and thoughts. The intellect can grasp this only if it climbs over itself, and that is when we will be in a position to identify. So having gained that experience, you cannot think of a better or a greater profit. There is nothing more superior to it. And after that, even if sorrow comes, you are unmoved. That is the reality. Exactly like what was the condition of Jesus on the way to the crucifixion. He says, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He was not unhappy for what was happening to him. He says, they are foolish, forgive them. So, this action, this meditation itself is called Dukkha Samyoga Viyoga. What is this? Is the way to liberation. That is Dukkha, sorrow. You first identify with the sorrow and then you eliminate the sorrow. So first you identify with your mind and intellect that this is a sorrow, and by this climbing over, you eliminate the sorrow. This is the way to liberation, and this is what we must practice with determination. So I will end the talk with that 3 water slide, if you remember, the one which I had shared last time. If you remember this from the last time, there is this muddy water. So this muddy mind with a lot of negativities which is there, the water is muddied. And then gradually as we clean it, it becomes ripples of, okay, I understand there are good, there are bad. Gradually those ripples come to the surface. And then finally what happens is the mind becomes calm and serene and reflecting everything which is in a true reality, like that clear water which we are seeing here in that water body. So that is what we need to strive for. So this is my session for today. If there is anything more that you need to ask, you can ask me now. You can send me a message. Whatever is convenient, you can do that. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. So what I have tried to do is give an overview of what is happening. There will be details that will be required. There will be details that we need to go into. That cannot be done in a generic session like this. So if we want to take that forward, we will have to identify for any of those things that I've said thus far and what I'm saying now too. We can identify separate sessions for each of them and try to do that. But these are a generic understanding about the subject matter itself. Thank you very much. Hari Om. Wish you all a very nice weekend.
Hari Om. Hari Om.
Thank you.